evening. I was going to start making a joke about how I bore people to death in lectures on politics, but I'm actually standing on a soapbox for the first time in my life, so it'll be much amusement for friends and family. It's been a difficult task to try and work out what stories to choose, what to say about a friendship with Raph. It's been more than 2.5 decades now. I should be in beginning and trying to remember when I first met Raph. The short answer is I can't. We were about 6 or 7 years old in the playground of Paddington Public School. But there was an element of fate in this encounter, which was subsequently pieced together by our mothers, Deborah and Anthea here, and possibly links back to what Raph was mentioning about Ancestry.com, the obsession that goes back, obviously, generations. In fact, 3 generations, it seems, of our family had met independently before us. So if you'll permit me, without the benefit of a PowerPoint presentation or a family tree to go into this, it started with our grandfathers, Alan and Patrick, who were friends in Canberra in the 1960s. It was then followed by Raph's mum's first cousin, Penny, who was friends with my aunt Nicola on my mum's side at school. Not only that, but in Melbourne, Nicola's future husband, John, my uncle by marriage, became friends with Raph's uncle on Deborah's side, and brother Anthony. Finally, my aunt on my father's side, before my parents met, became good friends with Deborah's other brother, Raph's uncle Guy. So if you're not already bored by this stage, I guess what I'm trying to say is it might not have been much of an accident that we actually met. But there was more to the friendship than this, and the coincidental family history. I guess I'd break it down into 2 main stages of our friendship, which would be the powerhouse era and the courthouse era. The first isn't as exciting as it sounds. It actually just refers to the Powerhouse Museum. But it was an important phase where Raph's dad Tony took us for what seemed like endless weekends to tire us out in the museum. Despite spending countless hours in the science and technology section, it seems that neither of us really developed the slightest useful ability in science or engineering. But it did make our friendship stronger. The more interesting part is the courthouse era. And there are many Judgment Bar veterans, I think, here today. This began for Raph and I, actually, when we were 16 with a fake ID, and just a few nights before both of us headed on exchange to Europe. Raph to France and myself to Germany. On his return, or our return, we continued this trend, but Raph had brought back his new and sort of moulded Francophile gentleman persona, to which he added a leather jacket and some well-honed pool skills. The figure of Mr. Palmer loping up and down Oxford Street in his unhurried style, which was mentioned earlier, whilst demolishing pool competitions and expounding on Rothko, as well as miming the Judgment Bar jukebox for obscure 80s pop. You can see now where this comes from, from the eldest sisters. But earned him the name, the Elegant Punisher, from no less than a Frenchman standing here. I think this is a nickname that he secretly enjoyed even more because it was awarded by a real Frenchman. But I'm not sure he knows that the Frenchman was actually born in Australia. Nonetheless, I do have to mention a couple of dubious qualities that contradict this cosmopolitan and gentleman chic that he's developed. The main element of this is his tragic and unshakable affair with the late-night Olympic Euros, and its deep-fried lamb cutlets after the Judgment Bar. Ultimately, this should be forgiven because many of us followed him down this path. But the day I realised it went deeper was in Melbourne, some 10 years ago, when we walked past a chicken and chip shop. Raph excused himself to buy what I thought was a piece of pizza. When he returned with a single ungarnished roast potato, I finally understood there was a deeper need for simpler and more unrefined things in his life that go beyond his well-tailored suits and shoes. Thankfully, though, in the time that I've been away, he did meet Victoria, and the courthouse era came to probably a well-earned end. Now, apart from the minor things of moving in together and buying a flat and getting the cat, I think Raph has preempted me here when I think I realised the relationship was serious was when he told me the story of acquiring these Danish rings. The time and care he spent on this project, as well as the strange covert deals he mentioned made out of the back of cars, signalled what I thought was actually a real commitment beyond anything else. Unfortunately, when Raph and Victoria actually came to Denmark to visit me, and I finally had the chance to get to know Victoria for the first time properly, she promptly came down with tonsillitis. But in this, Victoria's stoicism and good humour, as well as Raph's care, was all the more impressive given the luxurious state of my apartment. Its lack of doors, TV, bathroom, and its long walk to the hospital actually brought forth the relationship and the care that they showed. Although it's not, almost broke it. Well, I'm glad it didn't. And although it wasn't how I expected to meet Victoria for the first time, it was amazing to see how resilient they both were. I do have to briefly mention Sir Reginald and the missing guest here tonight. The physically large part of their household as well. And only because I have the dubious honour of being his godfather. Nonetheless, it's true. I hope, well, I've seen them anyway together, living and travelling together and apart, and I've seen them take care of each other and their families in different times. And I have no doubt they've had their disagreements, and they do support different AFL teams. But they have maintained real love and respect for each other regardless of all else, and it's a wonderful thing to see them finally getting married today. In all seriousness, I wish you all the best for the future, and I hope to see you. Lonnie.
Victoria Jane Perry. Sorry, Palmer. I think that's right now. I think we're not going with Perry Palmer for obvious reasons, Perry Palmer. But so Victoria Jane Palmer. I've been given the duty of speaking about this extraordinary woman, and I'll do it with great pleasure. Well, I'll try. I don't remember clearly, but keeping the tradition, I'm going to start with Raph. I don't remember really my first meeting with Raph. I'd heard so much about him before we met, but it was quite far into their relationship when we finally met. They were on a weekend in Melbourne. And when we did start to get to know each other, I was struck by his sense of humour, by his humility, by his gentleness, his intelligence, his love of Italian cakes from Haberfield, and his deep appreciation of all things French. Now that I know him a little bit better, I actually respect Raph for another reason, and that is that he's really good at making fun of Victoria. And that's a pastime that's very dear to my heart. Oh yeah. But you know, he does it from this place of utter respect and love, which makes it very funny for everyone involved, most especially Victoria. And any man who can make Victoria snort is a keeper. I've known Victoria since high school, but we weren't really friends at school. The truth is, we were more sort of friends with each other's friends. After school, we chose each other. And since then, Victoria has been my dearest friend. She's an incredible woman, fiercely loyal, extremely determined, very sharp, genuinely humble, and continuously generous with her love and joy. And she's from such good stock. They are a tough and classy breed, those Perry women. When Victoria and Raph got together, I was delighted that she'd found a true partner, and clearly she has. Now, Victoria likes to do her research. She likes to think things through. I've seen how long it takes this woman to pack a suitcase. So when she decides that something's right, it must be right. And while I wouldn't call her fussy, perhaps discerning is a better description. Regarding Raphael, there was never any hesitation. In fact, things were pretty intense right from the get-go. And that infamous lost weekend. Well, we'll just leave that where it is. In fact, I think when a dog person becomes a cat person, something pretty powerful is at work in the universe. And clearly, you've heard this before, this is the danger of going later in the night. Clearly things were pretty intense for Rap too. That incredible story of him searching out this ring to give to Victoria. She was so touched by it, and she wears it every day. She's wearing it today, yes? Yes. And I love this story mostly for the romance of it. It's bold, it's a beautiful gesture, and I think that a meeting of two romantics is such a wonderful thing. Victoria came to stay with me recently in Melbourne, and we spent the weekend hanging out and kind of talking wedding talk, which is apparently what people who are getting married do. And we somehow got onto the daily frustrations of a relationship. And that's crazy, I know. The truth is, and I'm not going to burst the wedding bubble here, folks, but the truth is that relationships are hard. They require patience and compromise, and people don't always tell you this stuff. So there we are, we're at this restaurant, and we're kind of talking about exciting things like organisational skills. And, you know, if people have different degrees of organisational skills, how would that affect you? Would I, in fact, be happy with someone who was more organised than me, or vice versa? And I thought, yeah, this is exciting stuff. I thought at this point, I should jump in, I should say something wise about, you know, learning to kind of figure out what's important in relationships. But unprompted, Victoria began to reminisce about first meeting Raph. She didn't need my help. And she told me how struck she was by his intelligence, how engaged he was with the world, and how exciting that was for her. And his knowledge and interest in art, and how they had endlessly satisfying conversations, and that he made her laugh. That these, in fact, were the things that drew her to him in the first place. All those years ago. And that's why she loves him still. And she's absolutely right. You don't love someone for how organised they are or for how they clean a bathroom, even though you love it when they do, folks. I'm just putting that out there. And I believe that there is no better foundation for a marriage. I was struck that night by her confidence, by how assured she was, and I'm absolutely delighted for them both. It's a wonderful thing to gather for and to celebrate here today, so thank you. Thank you for including us in your love and in this beautiful day. So, for you two, a proper toast. May the most you wish for be the least you get, Victoria and Raph. Still me, sorry folks. So, Ms. Victoria Palmer. I asked her this morning her first impression of Raph, and she said, tall, affable. He was wearing a checked cowboy shirt, and he had glasses, and this is my favourite, he had a really good vocabulary. He was doing a crossword, so he seemed smart. I think it's important just to get a little bit more detail here. So they met first